Hi, I'm Lisa and welcome to my creative art studio. I am a full-time employee with the state of Washington, and in my spare time I love to craft. I normally make cards. I also do some scrapbooking and other paper crafting items, and so I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and that allows me to teach classes and provide products through Stampin' Up! To my customers. So I have monthly classes that I was holding in my creative art studio here at my home pre-COVID. Since COVID hit, I've been offering classes through the mail where I prepare all of the samples and cut all the materials and send them to you through the mail, and then I produce videos of me putting those projects together so that you can follow along. I usually offer these once a month. I've also been producing some little videos like this one on how-to techniques, and also some showcasing some specific products that Stampin' Up! Has in their catalogs. So the how-to videos are things like how to make greeting cards and how to stamp, how to watercolor, and a whole variety of different things. So look for those on my YouTube channel, also on my creative art Facebook page. So thank you for joining me, and enjoy learning a little bit about rubber stamping and making your own greeting cards. Thank you. Hi and welcome. Let's talk about rubber stamping. So there are different types of rubber stamps available on the market. The first one I'm going to show you is a wood mount rubber stamp, and this is the old style that Stampin' Up! Used to offer, and a lot of companies still offer, but they're a little bit less prevalent, I guess, because they take up a lot of room. So every stamp is mounted on its own wood block, which is, it's really nice. It's nice to, they're not heavy wood blocks, they're very lightweight wood, and it's very nice because they're all ready to go for you, but they take up a lot of room. You can see how thick all these wood mounts are. They take up a lot of space. But rubber stamps basically have a rubber image, and then a foam piece, and then your wood mount. And the rubber image really produces a very nice quality stamping image for you. And from my perspective, the rubber stamps are the best quality, but photopolymer is getting really popular, and I'll talk about those in just a minute. So the new form of getting rubber stamps is in a cling style of stamp. And what that is you get this sheet of images, and this is again your red rubber. You just pop these out. This is your red rubber image, nice deeply etched image, then a piece of foam, and then you can add the indexing image onto your stamp if you want. You just remove this backing, which you need to remove anyway, and then you can either apply this directly to an acrylic block like this, and it sticks really well. You can see that it's not moving, or you can put the indexing on it so you can see what you're doing. I tend to not put the indexing on as often. Sometimes I need to a little bit more because I teach classes, and it's helpful for the students in the class to be able to really see the image, but lots of times I don't put the indexing on. Long words stamps sometimes need the indexing. That's helpful. It's really hard to read these backwards, but anyway, that's what a cling stamp is. And the beauty of the cling stamp is you get the great quality of the deep etched red rubber and the foam piece attached to it, but you don't have all of the blocks like you do in this wood mount stamp set. So you can see just the difference in size between what you store when they're on wood blocks or cling. So same great quality of a stamp, but just in a more convenient form. And you just buy like a handful. You could get by with 2 or 3 different size acrylic blocks. Like here's a long one for a long image. Here's a smaller one. So you can get by with 2 or 3 different size clear blocks, and that's all you need for all of your stamps. So you can see that this very large image would need a bigger block than this one. So that is a cling mount stamp. And then another new version that has come out are the photopolymer stamps. Now they have been around for a while. Stampin' Up! Has introduced them just in the last few years. And it's a different material. So this is photopolymer, not red rubber, and it doesn't have foam attached to it. So some people find using something like this foam mat underneath will give them a better impression when they're stamping. The beauty of photopolymer, again, it's that same thin storage that you have with the cling mount, but the beauty is you can see right through. So when you're using a word like this, or using a stamp, like a word stamp like this, as soon as you ink it up, it's very easy to see, and you can see exactly where you're stamping it on your paper. So that's one of the things people really love about the photopolymer, is being able to see what you're doing. One other cool thing about photopolymer that a lot of people aren't aware of, and it only works well for certain things, like maybe like a long word stamp, or like this image, which is this stem for the flower. Because it's photopolymer, it's actually manipulative. So if you wanted, you could almost straighten that right out. So from that to this. So it's kind of a nice thing, and then it generally will go back to its original form. But that's a kind of a beauty of photopolymer, is you can manipulate a little bit. So for example, this longer word stamp that I have here, if I needed it on a bit of a curve, you can actually kind of manipulate that a bit. So see how you can kind of get it on a bit of a curve depending on what you're wanting to stamp. So that's a neat aspect of the photopolymer stamps. So that is mainly your different stamps available, and the photopolymer are a little less expensive because I think they're a little easier to make, less material. So they're a little cheaper, which is a nice thing too. You can save a little money with those. So let's see, the next thing, and also when it comes to stamps, I generally just clean them with water. Stampin' Up! Makes these chamois. Now this is one, it's very hard. When it dries, it's very hard. I cut in half. So this is a half size, and I do that because of my classes, having a couple available on the table when I'm teaching. And you basically I just get these wet under warm water, and then in this case, and then they're ready for cleaning all of your stamps. So the next thing I want to talk about are inks. And let me bring out a few different types of inks here so you can see what we have. So the main ink pads by Stampin' Up! Are dye-based ink. So dye-based inks produce really vivid images. They are water-based. They dry fast. They're acid-free, so if you're stamping in a scrapbook, you can feel confident that they're acid-free. And they basically are great on most porous surfaces. Now, I do want to just note one thing. In the old style Stampin' Up! Ink pads, the ink pad is actually a felt material. So whatever ink pads you might have from different companies, you might have some that are felt. And then the newer style Stampin' Up! Ink pads are foam. And now it's very hard to see. You probably can't see the difference in the video. But I just wanted to note that just be mindful of the material of your ink pad because you don't want to squish your stamp into a foam pad that happens to be very juicy, or you're going to have ink everywhere. So just be mindful of that when you're stamping. Then there's an ink called StazOn, and this is a solvent ink, and basically it dries by just the air. So it's not drying into the material you're stamping on per se. It dries with the air, and so these inks are great on porous surfaces, on non-porous surfaces, for example, glass or metal. So you could actually stamp on a glass plate with StazOn ink. Then Memento, this is one of my favorite inks from Stampin' Up! In black, and it just produces a really crisp image. And the Memento is perfect if you're coloring in your image with alcohol markers. So this is, you really need this ink if you're using the Stampin' Blends, which are alcohol-based markers to color. This is the one you're going to want to use. And all of Stampin' Up's ink pads come with, you can purchase re-inkers. So let me just grab one and show you. This one is the Memento one, and it's just a little bottle like this, and you basically can, if your ink pad starts to get dry, you can just go in and re-ink it. See how it's just absorbing right away? My pad might have been a touch dry. So that is really economical and convenient to have that around. Instead of having to buy another ink pad, you can just buy the re-inker. And then Versamark is a watermark stamp pad, and it just creates like a watermark look on your paper. So for example, if you stamped on a purple cardstock, the image would just be a little bit darker purple, kind of like it's wet or watered. And this ink pad is really great for embossing, heat embossing. So if you're going to put embossing powder on and you want to heat it and get that raised look, this ink pad works very well because it stays wet longer than the dye inks. So those are some basics of inks. Okay, let's make a card. I have Daffodil Delight, classic Stampin' Pad from Stampin' Up! And Old Olive. So I'm going to use those two ink pads and the Timeless Tulips. And this is the photopolymer stamp set. And I've already pulled off some of the stamps that I want to use for this card. And I also want this large tulip. So I'm going to just pull that off the sheet like this and then attach it to a clear acrylic block like so. Now I've already pre-cut my papers. I have a little piece of Designer Series paper and then some of the basic white. This is the extra thick cardstock because I'm using this for my card base. And then the regular basic white that I'll use for a sentiment piece and the image, and then Old Olive cardstock. So again, I really love Stampin' Up! And being able to coordinate the colors of inks and papers. So let's go ahead, and I already scored this cardstock at the 4 1/4 mark, so it's going to be a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card when I'm finished. I did cut a little bit off the front, so it's not a full card like I normally would make, but I just cut a little bit off the front because I want to be able to see the Designer Series paper that I'm going to put on the inside. I want to see that from the front. And then I use my bone folder just to get a really nice crease on that card so it lays pretty flat. So the Designer Series paper is going to go on the inside. There'll still be plenty of room for you to write a message in your card, and then it'll peek through on the front like that. I think that's really pretty. I'm going to use the liquid glue, the Mono multi-liquid glue, to put this on just to show you one of the adhesives you could use. This is a great one for new stampers because it's super easy to use. It's only $4 for the bottle. And what I like about it is the wet glue allows for a little bit of time to move your product, your materials around if you don't get them exactly where you want them the first time. And then just want to make sure you try and keep an equal border around the edge, and then that part is finished. So I'm going to put that aside for now, and we're going to work on the front panel. And we're going to do some stamping on this white piece, and then we're going to glue it to the old olive. I'm going to open up my ink pad, and I'm going to start by stamping the large tulip image. And this is a felt pad, so you can be a little more aggressive with it. It's not going to smush all over the place. So just ink it up really well, and then I'm going to place it up here in the top corner. So just stamp it straight down, apply even pressure, and then lift it straight up. Beautiful image. Now I'm going to, and I have my my little chamois out here. It makes it a really easy way to clean your stamps. Just like that. Very quick and efficient. So now I'm going to use the smaller tulip image. Again, same thing, ink it up really well. And then I'm going to stamp it right here to this side. Straight down, even pressure, straight up. Beautiful. And again, clean it with my chamois. I just like this because everything's right here. I don't have to walk to the sink or to rinse those off. So I'm finished with the daffodil ink. And now I'm going to use Old Olive. And I'm going to use the stem. I have 2 of the stems from this image. And let me just get a piece of scrap paper. I want to just put this under my image because I believe my stems are going to go off the edge of this white piece of cardstock. So I'm going to ink this up. Again, this is also a felt pad, so I don't have to worry about if I'm pressing hard. So ink that up really well, and then I'm going to line this up as best I can so that it joins that flower. Even pressure, lift it off, and see how I stamped off the edge of the paper. Okay, I'm finished with that image. So again, clean it with my chamois, nice and clean. And then this stem is a little straighter. I'm going to use that for this small tulip. Oh, it just got a little bit of yellow ink on there. That's all right. Just line this up as best I can. Stamp that down, even pressure, and lift it up. And there I have my 2 very pretty tulip images. I still need that green because now I'm going to stamp some of the leaves. So again, clean that with my chamois. I'm going to start with this larger leaf. Ink that up really well. I'm going to stamp this right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a second generation image, and what that means is you're stamping a second time without re-inking. But what I do is I huff on it just to get a little bit more moisture onto that stamp. And there, now you can see it's in the background, which is a really nice feature. It sort of gives the image some dimension. And now I'm going to use this other leaf. It's a little straighter. And I'm going to stamp that here off of that larger image. I'm going to stamp another one, re-inking it. I'm going to stamp another one right here. Hopefully I'm covering up that little bit of yellow ink I got on that paper. And I am, that's great. And then I'm going to get another second generation by huffing on it. And adding that right there. It just really adds a little bit of extra depth to your stamped image. So I think that's going to be it for the tulip and the main focal image on this card. And the last thing I have to stamp is a sentiment. And I'm going to pull the Easter sentiment from this same set. So everything is right here in this set, which is great. And I want the one that says, Happy Easter, Happy Spring, Happy, Happy Everything. I'm going to get myself another acrylic block. And then I have this little scrap. I tend to keep most of my scraps of cardstock, especially the Whisper White or the Very Vanilla. And I'm going to ink this up really well. Now make sure, and if you want, you can always just test it on your scrap paper to make sure that the entire stamp is getting inked up when you're pressing it into that pad. Okay, and then I'm going to line it up as best I can. I'm moving it with my other hand. Place it down. And you could do this on a larger piece of paper and then cut it to size, but I have all these scraps of pieces that I cut off the edge, and so I like to use them whenever I can. All right, I'm done with that ink. I'm gonna, again, clean this stamp with the chamois. It's ready to go back. And then I'm gonna cut this into a banner shape. I'm just going to cut the excess piece off the edge, and then to get a nice banner, I like to cut in from the edge, and then from each corner cut right to that point. Cut right through. I guess I'm not cutting it right through, am I? There we go. Okay, and then you get a nice banner, and I think that's a pretty look. So let's go ahead and put the rest of this card together. So I am going to use my dry adhesive now for this, just to show you the difference. So this is like a double-sided tape. This is the Stampin' Up! Stamp and Seal, and that comes with refills, so once you finish that you can keep the adhesive container and then just refill the inside piece. So that saves you a little bit of money that way. Okay, place that down, and now I'm going to add a little bit of twine. I had some white twine in my stash, and I'm going to just add a little bit of that. Just make a little bow off to the side. When I work with, I think I need a little bit more. When I work with twine, I like to make a double knot first, just because it tends to want to move a little bit more. And then once you get your bow done, then you can just kind of pull the ends, hold that center knot down and pull the ends until you get it the size of the bow that you want. All right, now this is ready to attach. So I'm going to put this right here on the front of the card like this so that I have some hanging over. I think that's a really pretty look. So I need to make sure I don't put adhesive here. Otherwise I'll end up closing the card, so sealing it shut. So no adhesive right on that edge, so this edge right here. I'll put some down here. Oops. And then again, just lining up. Let me get that scrap paper out of the way. Don't need that anymore. So again, just looking to get an equal border around those 3 edges. And because that's that dry adhesive, you don't have quite the time to move it around like you do with the multi-liquid adhesive. All right, and then the last thing is to add my sentiment. And I want this to hang over this edge as well. Again, just getting the different layers is really pretty. So let's see, I am gonna put that on with dimensionals, but I think, oh, there we go. I was gonna say, I think I might be out of them in just here at my desk. So, oh, let's make sure now. So this is the edge that's gonna hang over. I don't want anything down there. So I'm just gonna put a few. That'll be plenty. And these are foam adhesive, so they're double-sided adhesive, but a foam so that it provides some height and dimension to your stamped project. So I'm going to just want to tuck this in right next to that bow. And then you have it hanging over the edge like that. And there you go. There's a very pretty and pretty simple card. So we used one stamp set and 2 different ink pads, and then some various papers. So I think that turned out really well. I hope you enjoy that. I do have one more to show you. This stamp set, the Timeless Tulip stamp set, also has a coordinating punch. So this is the punch, and it punches out the largest of the tulip images and then this leaf. But what's really fun is you can also punch this out of any paper that you're using for the large tulip, and then have it layered on the side. That's kind of neat too. But I wanted to show you a card that I did by using the punch, and so this little Mother's Day card, I think this is really cute. It's super tiny little card, but I just think it's so cute. And I stamped the large tulip image and punched with purple ink. I think that's rich raspberry, and then punched it with the punch. So I didn't have to cut. You could cut, but the punch makes it really easy. And then I used some dimensionals as well, and also just kind of curled the paper a little bit. So I just used like my bone folder and sort of curled the paper so that you get all of this dimension. So you can see on the side all the dimension in that card. Super pretty and very simple. So 2 leaves and 2 of the larger flowers, and then I added some ribbons down here. So that's one more way you can get some mileage out of your products, is when they have bundles like matching punches or matching dies. So that makes it really fun and easy because you don't have to cut those by hand. So there we are. There's those projects. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.